Hey guys, it's Quanna back again with another Handmaid's Tale review. Hope you all are doing awesome. I'm not going to waste a lot of time getting into episode 7 entitled Shattered, where we see the consequences of Nick's actions from last week. And so spoilers for episode 6 and episode 7 of the Handmaid's Tale. If you haven't watched those episodes and you don't want to be spoiled, save this video and come back to it later. But as we all recall last week, Nick actually confessed about the plot to take down Jezebel's in order to try to save himself and to save June. He comes to her with this plan, this hatched up plan to somehow flee to Paris, forget their kids, or I guess they would somehow go to Alaska, scoop up Nicole and go to Paris, but forget the kid that he has on the way with Rose, just to kind of save himself. And we see the immediate consequences of his actions where we pick up right back inside of that pantry where June is just completely in shock and awe in his actions. And we see the outcome of this, which is the utter slaughter of all of the Jezebels. It is a tragic scene, and it really reminded me of Orange is the New Black, and really the scene at the end of the series, spoiler for that, where we see all of the immigrant women who are being sent back or being extradited out of the U.S., and they kind of just disappear, except for this is really a slaughter. And the only one who ends up getting saved is Janine. I don't think, and this is kind of going to be my theory, I don't think that Janine is going to make it out of Gilead. I think that either a couple of things will happen. June will die trying to save Janine, or Janine will die, and this will be the thing that finally wakens Aunt Lydia up out of the ruse and the guise that she has been in and been under, that she can somehow protect these women, because she's still kind of living underneath that vague belief that she can make their lives better somehow. And of course we see the other outcome of all of this, which is when June leaves. I think this is heralding the end of her relationship with Nick. She of course chastises Nick for being so selfish and forfeiting and sacrificing those women in order to save himself, and he basically lets her know that that's what they all do. They all try to save themselves. But what we do know about June is very often she has been willing to sacrifice her attempts at freedom in order to get others out. She could have very easily found a way to make it aboard that plane, but yet she did so, sacrificing her own safety in order to get the kids out. And she's done this time and again, and this is what separates June from Nick. And for all of the Nick and June shippers, I'm so sorry, because I definitely think that this puts an utter stop to their relationship. Because when he says to her, when she basically calls him out for this and tells him that he's horrible and selfish, and he says, well, you love me, what does that make you? I think that is her wake-up call. I think, it's like she's been in love with this belief that somehow he was a better man than what Gilead had made him into. And I've been saying on this channel since jump that Nick signed up for Gilead before Gilead was Gilead. So he's known all along what Gilead was up to. And he might have done things here and there to try to help himself, maybe even to make himself feel better about his position in the world of Gilead. But ultimately, he signed up for this. He's not a June who got taken as a prisoner of war and made into a handmaid. He signed up for this, and this is the man that he is. And now perhaps she can go forward with her blinders off and either reconcile things with Luke, or do what she's going to do, be a soldier and fight, and perhaps fight to the death. So she goes back to, no man's land, where Mayday is, the Mayday base, and everyone knows what happened. And she ultimately does confess to Luke that Nick was the one who told. Now, I am glad that she did this, although the part of me that wanted her to just kind of process her grief a little bit longer and have that chance would have maybe held that closer to the vest a little bit longer. But I am glad that she immediately confesses. No one can accuse her of trying to hide her shame of having told him. But it does immediately cause a rift between her and Mayday, because of course they're thinking, you're stupid. Why would you believe him? Why would you trust him? Why would you have told this to him? And even Luke chastises her in this moment, and it is kind of shocking that he can't conceive of why she would do this, being that Nick has been willing to help her and help him for her. So why, if this was for her as well, why would she think that Nick would tell this to save himself? I'm so glad that when we get later on in the scene, as things develop and Luke, is goes off on her and basically, says to her, don't you think I see how you look at him? Don't you think I realize what this was, that you love him? Basically all of those things. And it's this huge rift between her and Luke, and of course her and Mayday. I'm so glad to see that Moira was on her side and understanding, because they have had some tough moments even in last episode. And so I'm glad that even Moira could see, yeah, you would have fallen in love with him. Y'all, again, as I have been saying, they were trauma bonded. It was not real love. It was a relationship out of necessity, out of finding a moment of respite in the hellishness that was Gilead. And now that's gone. And now she can take the blinders off and be free of Nick. And I wish the best of Nick. I don't think he's the worst of Gilead, but he has to make his decision of where he's going to stand and how he's going to maneuver. And I don't think that confessing the plot about Jezebel was the way to do it. He does admit in that scene that he did not give up the Jezebels. He didn't say that they were involved in the plot. And yet we know that Commander Wharton executes the women, issues the plan to execute the women. And so, as I've been saying, I don't think he is to be trusted. I definitely think that he has something up his sleeve. And I think the little bit of protection and grace of, flexibility with rules that he gives to Serena, that he gives to Rose, it's because they are the chosen women in his life, not because he believes that that should be fair for everyone. I don't believe that at all. And it's going to take me getting to the end of the show to see how this all plays off, if I believe that he is actually capable of wanting this to be kind of a more fair and equal society, because I just don't believe it right now. I think he's very much like Fred. I think he's very much like every man that we've seen on this show. For the most part, they are comfortable with their people having flexibility and having safety and the rules and things of that nature, but they still want power above anything else. The idea that the women at Jezebel's were forced into Jezebel's essentially, and he executes them. No. I mean, that to me definitely reeks of this man needs to be taken down. And so this puts a lot of things at risk. We have, of course, still the high commanders wanting to take down Lawrence. So he comes into play, and he actually comes all the way to Mayday and makes a plan, or tries to help initiate a plan to bring them down, because his life is still at play. We also get a chance to see Serena go and reach out to the other wives to try to get more support for New Bethlehem, and to try to see what the temperature is with them about perhaps being able to get their husbands to agree to New Bethlehem, to support New Bethlehem, because they would have the opportunity to read and write, and so with their children. But the other wives are still sipping the Kool-Aid, very much in Stockholm Syndrome of like, oh, well, my husband thinks and my husband says and da-da-da-da-da. And we definitely see Naomi Putnam leading this charge, despite the fact that her own spouse is also leading the charge to New Bethlehem. And so I just thought that was so ironic that she doesn't get the support of even Naomi, because Naomi is very self-serving. She's able to survey the room and say, this is not the space for this, so I'm going to shut this down immediately. Also, the idea that Serena, I think definitely it's a power play between the two of them. Like, she now has some rank and some authority amongst these women, and she's not going to risk losing that. So how dare Serena come and potentially jeopardize that? And I think she remembers when she supported Serena the last time, when Serena tried to get women the right to read the Bible, and how that went. She's not risking her position for anyone. I mean, listen, face it, she didn't risk her position for her former husband before he was slaughtered on the ground. So she's definitely not going to be someone who's going to put her own position of power in jeopardy. And so we eventually see Serena reach out to Wharton and kind of talk about this as they're making plans to move back to DC or Boston, or figure out where they're going to live. And of course, she wants to stay in New Bethlehem. And the plan is, of course, to have this grandiose wedding that is is going to bring all of Gilead together, garner the attention, garner the authority, get her to have a higher standing, and ultimately get more support for what she has planned for New Bethlehem. And it's going to be a grand wedding with everyone involved, including the handmaids. And we could see Serena is not happy with this, because I do think Serena has reached a place in her journey where she knows beyond what the handmaids represent, which is fertility, that they represent the men raping, attacking, brutalizing women. And I do think she's wanting to distance them from that. And so I read her reaction as perhaps being like, how is he going to be wanting this? Reminder of that. Is this going to lead to the old ways? But she's very naive, and she goes along and begins making her plans. But thankfully, June does decide to buckle down and help hatch a plan to take out Gilead at Serena's wedding. And so they hatch this plan, and we get to see the last 10 minutes of the episode, kind of the execution of that. Shout out to Darcy, who shows up from The Good Place as one of the aunts who is also working for Mayday. And poor Janine, who is stuck at Commander Kyle's and is obviously being brutalized. Are they going to be able to get her out? Are they going to be able to execute the plan? Will Moira and June make it out alive? That is where we are left off at the end of this episode, guys. And we only have 3 more episodes left. So my question to you is, what are your theories about what's going to happen? Who's going to make it out of Gilead alive? How much damage are they going to be able to do to Gilead? I do think that the fact that we know that there is a sequel book and that they're adapting that, it does dampen a little bit with what they'll be able to execute, because I think we know kind of how things are going to go. But I still want to know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you thought about this episode. It was a pretty decent episode, but it wasn't as strong, I think, as last week. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. But let me know what your thoughts were, and I will see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace.